Hello, educators first. I'm never 100% sure if I'm actually live, but I'm going to just jump on in and believe that I am. I'm so happy to hop in with the Educators First community. I'm going to give it just a couple of minutes, maybe a minute or two, to give people a chance to hop on. And then I will get on with the show. So, my name is Robin Montegari. I'm so honored. I really do feel honored that I was invited to. Oh, hi, Mallory. Oh, I guess I am live. See, I never know. I'm so happy that I was invited to speak to you all tonight. I have a really special place in my heart for educators. Most of my family, many people in my family are educators in every place in education that you can imagine. So I've got teachers and paraprofessionals and support staff and administrators, you name it. And I myself am a school counselor, so we have a lot of people that are involved in the school system. And especially right now, when things are so odd and so stressful, I'm even more pleased that I get the chance to speak with you all tonight and hopefully share something that will help you manage through these stressful times, honestly. So again, my name is Robin Montegari. I am currently a school counselor in a high school. I've been doing that for 12 years. I am also a life coach. My group is called Love Yourself Fiercely. I deal mostly with women who are in midlife-ish, empty nest-ish stage of life. I help people kind of look inward, develop a renewed relationship with themselves, rediscover their purpose, their power, their energy, and kind of reimagine for themselves what they want their futures to be. And then I help them step into that future self. So, one of my favorite things in all of that, including in school counseling, is to help people with transformation. I love doing that. Beyond that, my history includes so many things. I started out working in television for a little while. I helped start up 2 businesses, raised my kids for a few years, did some advocacy with parents of special needs children. And one of the most gratifying jobs that I've had was as a certified therapeutic horseback riding instructor, where I worked with students who had a wide variety of special needs and mental health issues, using a horse as a therapeutic tool. So that was an awesome experience. And of course, I love working as a school counselor. I love working with teenagers. But times right now are really trying and stressful, as I imagine they are for you all as well. So, as I said, my focus is on helping people develop stronger, more impactful relationships with themselves. So, we hear all the time on an airplane, for example, I'm sure you guys have heard this. When the oxygen mask drops down, you put the oxygen on yourself first, and then you give aid to someone else. Truer words, right, were never spoken. We need to fuel ourselves first. We cannot pour from an empty cup. We cannot drive with an empty gas tank. We cannot energize and inspire others if our energy is depleted to the point where we lack inspiration ourselves, right? So tonight, I want to talk just briefly, because I know we have limited time, about some of the basics of building a relationship with yourself. And I hope that through my conversation, it becomes evident in how it can help you manage better in stressful times. So I'm going to jump right in and talk about the mother of all concepts, in building a relationship with yourself. And side note, I call it the mother of all concepts. I don't think that's scientifically proven, but I think it is absolutely the basic building block of building a relationship with yourself. And that's the development and the practice of self-awareness. I know it probably sounds like duh, of course. And when I ask people if they think they're self-aware, they often do think they're self-aware. But I'm talking about a deeper level of self-awareness. So not just self-aware, I know I'm mad, I know that I'm frightened, I know that I'm happy, I know that I'm feeling really good or really bad right now. I'm talking about a little bit of a deeper level than that. If you don't have that really kind of deeper level, you're going to have a really hard time really knowing what makes you tick, really knowing what makes you feel good, really knowing what pushes your buttons, and most importantly, really knowing what can make you feel better, what you have within yourself to manage those feelings and to choose those feelings. The more we practice this, the more you create within yourself a deep well of strength and tools that you can draw on in the most challenging of times. And I know that that can be a little bit hard to believe, especially if you're going through very challenging times. And I know that anyone watching this, whether you're watching now, and I'm just going to look over here, whether you're watching now or you're watching at some later time, I know that it can be really hard. People will say, well, I'm dealing with life and death situations, or I'm dealing with whether or not I'm going to have enough money to pay my bills, or I'm dealing with, you name it, any number of things. So everybody is walking around with their own stressors, right? With their own baggage and their own real life, really difficult situations. We all have our own. And I don't know what yours are and you don't know what mine are. But what I do know is that when you develop the self-awareness that I'm talking about, you have more control over how you respond and how you react. You own some power. You are not just lashing out and reacting and spewing whatever comes out of your mouth. You've got this more natural, although you're practicing it and you're developing it, it becomes a more natural self-awareness that allows you to step back and make choices about how you look at a situation and about how you respond to a situation and about how you choose to feel. So I'm not saying it's all easy and rainbows and butterflies and, just believe this and everything will be wonderful. It's work, it's practice, and it doesn't erase things that are difficult, but it makes the dealing with them and the responding to them and the coping with them and the supporting others through them, it makes all of that a much more easeful experience, if that makes sense. And I hope it does. So let me just take a quick look down here at my notes. One of the other things about if you don't develop this self-awareness, this one I need to mention, you will go through your days and nights on more of an automatic pilot, especially now. We are so overburdened and stressed. And we're in one of the fields where we really are in the spotlight and overburdened and overstressed. And changes are coming at us left and right and from one day to the next. So right before Thanksgiving, we got an email saying we were not going to be coming back to school until later this week. And then just this afternoon, I got another email saying that I won't be coming back to school until next week. So teachers in particular are going from teaching in person one day to teaching remotely and virtually the next day. And things are just changing very dramatically and very quickly. If you don't develop this wealth of self-awareness within yourself, you're going to just roll through those days and nights on autopilot. And you're going to end up feeling depleted, tired, shortchanged. And worst of all, you're going to roll through your days absorbing all of the bad stuff and barely noticing the good stuff, which we're cheating ourselves if we do that, right? We've got this natural tendency as humans, and we can change it, but we've got this natural tendency, it's part of our survival instinct, to notice the bad stuff because we need to protect ourselves from the bad stuff. But what happens is it's like a snowball, and that negative stuff sticks and gathers, and it just keeps gathering more and more negative stuff as it rolls down that hill. When you start to practice self-awareness, you recognize that you have the power to choose your emotions. You have the power to frame your situation however you want to frame your situation. And you have the tools to handle those challenging situations that I was talking about before. And then suddenly, but with intention, and little by little, you start to attract the positive stuff. And then that attracts more positive stuff. And then that snowball starts to pick up more positive, and your outlook starts to change. Your stress level changes. Your well-being improves. Your physical condition, your health improves. And your capacity to show up as your best self for everyone you're showing up for truly does become limitless. It truly does, because it is a choice that you make. So you can choose how much of it to give and how much of it to hold back. It's really that simple and that complex at the same time. That is really hard, Mallory. You're right. Hi, and you know what? I'm just seeing these comments over here. Self-awareness equals power to have control in your life. Absolutely. So I'm going to be honest, it is not an easy practice. Because when you practice self-awareness, you not only notice the good things, right? But you also notice things about yourself that you may not like very much. Like, for example, how short-tempered you might be. Or how people, things, or circumstances trigger you and lead you to reach for that bag of chips that you're trying to avoid. Or the cigarette habit that you've been trying to give up. Or the extra drink at night to calm down and to kind of escape. Those are not easy things to notice about ourselves. It's really not. But sticking with the practice brings you through all of those automatic reactions that you don't love so much. And then you get to a place of choice and power where you can start to replace those automatic reactions. All right, so let's look at this in your day-to-day as educators. So right now, you may be feeling stressed in the current climate. I mean, I think probably you are in the slim few if you are not feeling stressed in the current climate. So you know that it's not feeling really good, and whatever that feeling might be. So if you're watching now, yeah, self-awareness can be really tough when you start to notice flaws, for sure. None of us like looking at our flaws. That's the truth. It takes courage. It takes a lot of courage. But it is so worth it. It is so worth it. So, okay, so what I was saying was, right, so let's put a name to some of the feelings that we're feeling right now, right? We're feeling stressed, not feeling so great. So those feelings might be fear. They might be anger. You might have a sense of powerlessness. You might have a sense of exhaustion. You might be feeling completely overwhelmed. If there are any people watching that want to comment, please feel free to add some of the feelings that you might be feeling right now. And the powerlessness, right? You're feeling that because you have no control over the situation. It is what it is. We say this to ourselves all the time. So you go about your day, maybe you're a little impatient, maybe you're eating mindlessly, you're going home with a headache, a sore back, you're skipping your exercise, you're not setting yourself up for a good night's sleep. This is a slog through each and every day, trying to do your best, but dragging yourself against the current because you are being bombarded with so many different things from so many different directions. And it's a combination of stuff from work, from home, from caring for other people, and ultimately from putting yourself last because you don't really have the time or the energy to put yourself anyplace else but last. It is not a pleasant place to be, my friends. Right? So now imagine if you took the time to develop a self-awareness practice. Let me give you a picture of what that might look like, at least in the beginning. You start your day feeling good, or at least neutral, not a bad day. You check in with yourself every hour or so, and by checking in, I mean you check in with your mind and your body, because we cannot deny the mind-body connection. And side note, this only takes a few seconds. It's an inside job, right? It doesn't take long. You're doing it to yourself mostly. So when you check in the first time of the day, you're feeling pretty good. Your energy is still pretty up there. You're hopeful. After an hour or so, you check in with yourself again, and now you notice a little bit of tightness in your jaw, maybe stiffness in your neck, and your emotions are teetering towards the negative. And maybe you're feeling a little on edge. So you notice this about yourself. Just notice it. Now, without missing a beat in your lesson or your meeting or whatever it is, whatever task you're working on, you just simply give your neck a roll, check in with your jaw, maybe wiggle it around a little bit, loosen it up, and remind yourself that these times are A, not easy for anyone, and that B, it is okay and very understandable that you're feeling this way. And you remind yourself also that you are here to do your best for your students in the moment. And that is, as educators, one of our, I'm going to include myself in the mix, one of our superpowers. We are here for our students. Every day we show up, and we try to show up as our best, right? And then we also remind ourselves that the school day does not go on forever. There will be an end. And then you take a cleansing breath or two, in through the nose, out through the mouth. You reframe, and you get on with your day, on with your lesson, on with the task at hand, on with your meeting, whatever it is. You can do this in a way that nobody even knows you're doing it. And in all honesty, it took me longer to explain it than it takes to do it. The most difficult thing is remembering to do it. Setting yourself a reminder, doing whatever you have to do to remember to do it. You might have to do this over and over and over again throughout the day. I suggest like every hour, and that's okay. And that is right on the money in developing this practice. You're rewiring your brain. So instead of automatically going to the negative, you are rewiring your brain to honor how you feel, to notice how you feel, and to have compassion for how you feel. So at first you have to set reminders. You have to do it every hour, and then eventually it becomes more of an automated thing, which is awesome. And I'll share a little bit about that in a few minutes. So now let me add this extra piece, which I love. If you are doing this while working with students, so some people might do this when the bell rings. If you're working in the building and you have a bell that goes off at the end of every period, you might make that your reminder. But I love the idea of doing it like every hour randomly. And if you're doing it while you're teaching students, while you can do it without them knowing it, you can also include them. I mean, talk about a teachable moment, right? So I think it would be awesome to just like say, you know what, guys, let's stop for a minute. Let's check in with ourselves and just do the process with them. Talk about teaching a life skill that they can carry with them forever, that they can practice without anybody even knowing they're practicing it. I feel like the minute or 2 or 3 or 5 that you take to do that is going to get you so much more quality out of the rest of your lesson. You're going to go back recharged, and I know as a teacher you feel good when you're making them feel good. So you're going to go back recharged, and they're going to feel recharged. They're going to feel respected and honored, and they're going to have a tool to use for life. I think that's an awesome thing to do. So if you can give them that, and you're also giving them this reminder that we are all in this together, and that we are all feeling the stress. There are no superhumans here, and we are not expecting them to be superhumans either. So that's my little side note on that. I just love that idea. I love doing that with students whenever I can. And as a matter of fact, I think, we have 3 people here, but let's just take a little breath right now. In through your nose, out through your mouth, and just notice what you're feeling. And keep breathing. But you may be feeling interested. You may be feeling tired. You may be feeling bored. I may be boring the life out of you. You may be wondering what you're doing here. Doesn't matter. You could be feeling whatever you want to be feeling. There are no right or wrong feelings, but just notice it. No judgment. Take another breath. Breathe into whatever you're feeling in your body. And then just come back to me, and I'll come back to you. And it's as easy as that. Whether you're doing it out loud or whether you're doing it on the inside. That's the basic practice. So I want to share another example with you, and this one's plucked from the headlines of my life. I do my best to practice what I preach, and I've been doing this practice for a long time. But life circumstances and stuff happens, and we often come out of alignment. When I fall out of alignment, my go-to is to go back to basics. And for me, back to basics means self-awareness practice. And back to basics with self-awareness means back to noticing. And like intentionally taking time every day to set an alarm and notice how I'm feeling. So when the pandemic last March kicked off and everybody was kind of hunkering down at home, when that all happened and we were all feeling pretty stressed, there came a point where people started venturing out again, right? For example, to grocery stores. Grocery stores became a real trigger for me. I would get super anxious when I got to a grocery store. Combination of things, right? Empty shelves, arrows pointing the direction I was allowed to walk in the aisles, people with masks, people kind of avoiding eye contact, avoiding each other. It just really brought it home to me, the situation that our world was finding itself in. And it was frightening. And it was anxiety inducing. Thanks, I'm not boring. Thank you, Mallory. It was really anxiety inducing, right? So I became, for a short moment in time, the person online at the grocery store that makes everybody else feel uncomfortable. I will admit it and fess up to it. I mean, it was really brief. Because, as I said before, when you practice this long enough, it starts to become a little more automatic. So these are highly charged, right, times, emotional times. So it took me a minute, but I did notice. And what I noticed about myself was I was the person with the scowliest face in the world online. And even wearing a mask, I felt like you could tell from a mile away that I was having none of it. I was not happy. I was fearful. I was angry. I was all of the above. You could tell in my body. My body was tense, and I was probably shifting from foot to foot. I was like looking around, rolling my eyes, being the person that nobody wants to be bothered with in the line at the grocery store. So when I noticed it, and I took a minute to have some compassion for myself. And I'm telling you, it stands out to me because I remember this. I remember this time. And the thing I remember most was having that feeling of compassion for myself come over myself. And that compassion reminded me that it's okay that I feel this way. It is understandable that I feel this way. It would be odd if I didn't feel this way. So I gave myself some grace in that moment. Then I asked myself, where is this in my body? I was curious. You get curious about how you feel. Where am I feeling this in my body? And so I gave myself a moment to just roll my shoulders and kind of stretch out my back and move my neck so that I could relax a little bit. and be present in the moment. And then I turned to the person who was appropriately 6 feet away from me on their spot in the line and smiled. And I swear, I'm going to do it right now. I have a mask on. You could tell I'm angry or whatever. And you could tell that I'm smiling. Sorry about blocking my mouth. But you can tell when somebody's smiling. I made eye contact and I smiled. And that was in an intentional effort to lift my own spirits, an intentional effort to ease the tension, an intentional effort to get present in the moment, and probably most importantly, an intentional effort to connect with another human being and with my own humanity. A reminder that we are all in this together. That's compassion, my friends. And when I think back to that event, probably almost a year ago, I remember that compassion for myself, first and foremost. And there was nothing selfish about it. It allowed me to show up in that grocery store line as my best self, a way better self than I had been only seconds before. And to offer a smile to someone else who was probably feeling concerned, maybe some fear, maybe some anger, whatever it was, because that person smiled back. And it was a knowing between two people. And that matters. That humanity matters, right? It makes us feel connected, even when we're on our dot 6 feet away from everybody else. So that's my little story ripped from my own headlines of how this self-awareness practice can really bring you to another place and another level in your life. Now I'm going to speed it up because I know we have about a half hour, and I think I'm at about the half hour mark. So I want to take you through the rest of your workday. So you've done your workday, you've been checking in with yourself, and now it's the end of your workday. Whether you're working from home or you're working in a building, you are now ending one segment of your day and moving on to the next segment of your day. My recommendation is to give yourself a little extra time in between these two segments of your day. So you're going to go from your work life to your non-work life. Oh, you're welcome, Mallory. I love to share. You're going to go from your work life to your non-work life. So you're going to check in with yourself, maybe do a body scan, maybe do a 5-minute guided meditation. You can find wonderful ones on YouTube. There are apps for that. You could just Google search it. Maybe do a short little meditation, as I said, and remind yourself that that work day will be back tomorrow, if it's a weekday. And that you are now shifting gears to your non-work day life. Okay? Very important. Talk to yourself. You're your own best friend. Talk to yourself. I'm reminding myself that my workday is ending, and I am now moving on to the next part of my life. I am shifting gears. It is so important. It is so important. You want to be present for this next part of your life. It's important to put your workday behind you. It's important for your well-being. It allows you to recharge, and it avoids getting into a funk that just is going to carry on and be a part of that negative snowball that we are avoiding, right? And I know, because I'm experiencing this myself, there is nonstop work to do. I could do another 7 or 8 hours of my day job now. I could get on my laptop and start doing work. You could be doing the same thing. I know you can be. But we are not designed as human beings to operate at our peak that way. And it leads us to feelings of resentment for our work, for our students, for all the things people are asking us. And it leads us to feelings of guilt for neglecting the other people, the pets, the things that are important to us, all of those other things in our life. And what should really be the part of our life that makes our life, right? So you don't want to be giving that up. Your workday will be there again tomorrow. Believe me, you are far better off to your students, to your coworkers, to your family, to your friends, to yourself when you leave work behind. I mean, fully. Close the door on it. Put it out of your mind. I can't really stress that enough. I mean, really, just put it out of your mind to the greatest extent that you can and be fully present. Whether you're at home with your family, whether you live on your own, be fully present on your own. Whether, I don't care what it is you're doing, put that behind you and move on to the stuff that makes your life. Okay? Okay, so there's way more to the practice of self-awareness than this little snippet that I just shared. But this little snippet, as far as I'm concerned, and I've lived it, and I really, really thoroughly believe it with my heart and soul, is so powerful. And I don't think it's an overstatement to say that this little thing could change your life. It really could. I know it's changed my life. It's changed my relationships. It's changed how I cope with things, how I show up for people. It can change your life, this practice. It will certainly change your relationship with yourself. That I know. So one word of caution, as I said earlier, you will see things as you begin this practice that you don't like about yourself, which will make you want to stop doing it, but don't stick with it. And remember this one big rule: no judging, no judging. So, okay, I was with a coworker today. A bunch of things were piling on top of each other. Stressors, more work responsibilities, all kinds of things that I don't really want to add to my plate got added to my plate. Then someone said one little thing to me innocently, and maybe I reacted in a negative way towards that person. Maybe I lost my temper. Maybe I was harsh. I don't like that about myself. I notice it. I mean, I can apologize to the person, of course. That's always a good thing to do, right? Apologize. I'm really sorry. That had nothing to do with you. But I notice it, and I don't beat myself up. I notice it, and I show myself compassion, and I let it go. I forgive myself. And I tell myself, I'm going to work on that. That I want to work on. I might see that same negative quality in myself the next 5 times, 10 times, 100 times, 500 times. It might be the same for you, but stick with it. You will get it. You will get there. You will change that way of responding because you will start noticing sooner and sooner and sooner, and you will start taking care of yourself before you blow a fuse. And you will start having more empathy for other people as you develop more empathy for yourself. You will get there. You will get there. You will get there. Just keep doing it. So that's my word of caution. And now my one last thing before I go, I promise, I know I keep saying this, so I'm sorry, guys, if I'm going over time, but you have to want to make this change. You have to want to step out of the misery, out of the discomfort, out of the anger, out of the fear, out of whatever it is that you are holding on to. And we do hold on to things. We do sometimes like to stand in the victim's place and blame our administrators or blame our coworkers or blame our family members or blame someone else for putting responsibilities on it. Blame the pandemic. We can blame as much or as many people as we want, but the only person who can make a change for us, the only person who can make things improve, who can make things lighten up, is us. You have to be willing to give up those roles, to give up those feelings that keep us in the negative. If you're willing to do that, then all you have to do is start. It's that simple. So that's pretty much it. Back to my quick tip, set an alarm. You can use your school alarm. If you're at home, set your own alarm. And again, I would really encourage you to do this with your students as well. I think it's one of the best gifts you can give to yourself, and you'll find that it's one of the best gifts that you can give to your students also, and your family members. Do it with them also. You can also put stickies around to remind yourself, whatever it takes. It's a very simple little thing with huge benefits, huge power. So I'm excited for you to get started, and I really hope that you do give it a try. I want to say thank you to all of my fellow educators. Oh, I will share my group info. Thank you. I'll put it in the links in the comments. Thank you to all of the educators. You guys really all deserve a medal for what we're doing. We've got big responsibilities. We've got a lot of young people looking to us for leadership. We've got communities looking to us for leadership. And we really have no structure right now to do that from. So we're creating it as we go. So give yourselves all a lot of love, a lot of pats on the back. And my group is called Love Yourself Fiercely, and I'm going to close by saying, love yourself fiercely. Have a good night, everybody, and thanks for having me.